The Dice Tower, episode 637.
K is for crazy, or for people who can't spell. Ah, yes. I have not seen Frozen 2 yet.
It's excellent. My boys said they liked it better than the original.
Well,
and the soundtrack has been on pretty much nonstop in my house.
Well, mine would be, but it's Christmas season, so it's time for Christmas music.
That's true. I've had to force that.
You could argue that Frozen is Christmassy.
It has snow.
I've seen the Let It Go song appear on some Christmas albums.
That's a little weird.
Well, I'm not arguing that. It's just the way it is.
Okay.
Folks, I'm Tom Vassell.
Oh, hi. I'm Eric Summer.
Yes, and we're here to talk about board games. It is nigh to the end of 2019. We are done with conventions for the year.
Yes. Yes, we are.
I got to be careful. You know, we always talk about that. Like, oh, we're so glad convention season's over. But the fact of the matter is it is fun to go to conventions, and it's a very first world problem to complain about.
It's that double-edged sword. You know, it's really more the frustrations of travel that we get upset with. It's not the event. I mean, once we're there, we're having a lovely time, and it's just, you know, being away from family and all the normal things and going anywhere is going to do for a trip. And yeah, we shouldn't complain as much as we do.
Although as much as Eric does.
What?
One of the things that I really liked about this, and I guess we'll jump a little bit ahead on the document here since we mentioned PAX, we had a really good time there. And one of the things I really liked was we went to the convention, we met lots of people, we had a great time, we spent time, we didn't really talk to each other very much. And then at night...
That's a plus? Like what?
No. Listen, I'm saying we were spending time with fans and people around the convention center.
Okay.
And then at night, we kind of went back to the house we were staying in, and we played games and hung out with each other. And it was a nice dichotomy.
Sure. We had an Airbnb, so rather than get a bunch of hotel rooms, we were staying in basically a house, and it was sort of like a sitcom situation.
It was fun. Despite Eric's making it sound worse than it was, I feel like it was a really good time. And in fact, a couple of the games we'll be talking about, we played there. So
yes, indeed.
Eric and I, oddly enough, don't play a ton of games together over the course of a year.
That's true. It's sort of a rare event.
So this was a good time for us. PAX itself was teeming with life, I guess would be the word. It was
teeming with life.
There was definitely a lot of excited people there. The audience skewed younger than most board game conventions, which I think is fantastic.
Certainly on Sunday, like the family day at PAX, there were a lot of kids around, which was really cool. Some were very excited to see you. It was very entertaining.
Well, I always think it's funny because my name is Tom Vassell. It's not Tom. Because on the on the channel, I would say, hey, this is Tom Vassell. And so kids would come up to me and go, hi, Tom Vassell. Tom Vassell, what do you think about this? It's a one-word name.
It's an honorific.
Well, but... You know, one thing I did notice interesting about PAX is that I thought it was fascinating how the con dropped in attendance from Saturday to Sunday more than any other con I've noticed.
You said that. I'm not sure I noticed it quite that much. Certainly by the end of Sunday, things were really emptying out.
Well, it's not a big deal. It was still very crowded the rest of the time. And PAX does a good job at this point of feeling crowded, but not overtly so. Like, I can move around in PAX as opposed to, say, Gen Con or Essen, where it's very exhausting and stuff to do that with.
Yes. I mean, they're very good at crowd control, it would seem. I think I would say it felt busy, but not crowded. There was certainly a lot going on. And there's certainly room to grow. They could pack a lot more into that exhibit hall than they do. I'm happy with it being more open and having some wide aisles. There were a couple of aisles that were extra wide and made it very easy to get from one end of the hall to the other with relative speed, which I appreciated when I had a couple of meetings all the way across the hall very quickly.
They did have us in a very, very back corner, though.
Yes.
If you found us, you made it to the back of PAX.
And one row beyond us was ice cream and milkshakes. It was like the reward for reaching the finish line.
That's true. I'm lucky I didn't even do that. So
wow.
Well, it's probably for the best.
There was one booth in between, so maybe you just didn't see it.
Well, no, I saw it, but then I just got busy and spent time doing other things.
Ah.
Overall, we had a great time, and if you came by and said hi, I can't tell you how much we appreciated it. We appreciate when people say hi to every con, but at PAX Unplugged, I don't know, it just seemed like every other person was doing it, and it was really cool. People were saying very, very nice stuff.
And if you want to see, we did a live panel at PAX, and I believe that's on PAX's video stream. If you want to check that out. We linked to it?
We did. You can see, Eric, our top 10 unsung games.
Yes, indeed.
We made no fun of Eric at the time. You go watch the video for proof. We edited it all out, Eric.
Did you?
Essentially, it's a silent video now.
Yeah.
Good times, though. We enjoyed ourselves, and so we are now done, like I said, with conventions. We have Dice Tower Cruise that's coming up at the end of January. But, we're already looking beyond at the Dice Tower West, which is in February, near the end of February. So there's a lot going on with that. I believe there's a few tickets left, Dice Tower West. Not many.
Yes, and I believe they the sales for that end in January. I think it's on the website that the sales for tickets end in January at some point. So if you are looking to come, you want to get those tickets soon.
And Dice Tower East, of course. I just worked on some stuff for Dice Tower East where everyone's going to be getting a copy of a game, but you'll have to wait and see what that game is.
A game, you say?
Well, more than one, actually, but...
Two games, you say?
Well, we'll talk more about that as time goes by. But, folks, if you want to come and play games, our library just keeps getting better and bigger. And none of the games we're mentioning today will make it to... No, maybe one or two of them will make it to the library.
Okay.
That's not to say they're bad, per se, but there's reasons for that. Like, for example, perhaps one of these games isn't even out yet. Tossing it over to Eric.
Okay. I got to, speaking of PAX, get a look at the new upcoming Return to Dark Tower. Dark Tower was an old game from the 80s with this giant mechanical thing, the Dark Tower, that would rotate and light up and basically run the game for you. Restoration Games is working on a reboot of Dark Tower. It is now a cooperative game. It has a mechanical tower, like the original did, that is run by an app, but it is a mechanical tower that lights up. Now, this is the pre-production. This game is expected by the end of 2020. So there's still a lot of things being worked out. This was, I believe, a 3D printed tower that they're working on the final design of. But in the game, you are facing some sort of evil. It's scenario-based. You are working together to defeat this thing. You are moving around a board, a circular board, with the tower in the center, and you've got 4 quadrants that you all start in. And you're moving around to different buildings to achieve activities. You've got a certain number of actions you can do on a turn. You can move 3-4 spaces depending on what your power is. And you can do like a reinforce action and a main action. Battling is a main action, or cleansing a zone is a main action. And you can fight bad guys. Combat is really cool. It's run by the app where you... It's like a dynamic deck where the bad guys draw a certain number of cards, and then you can mitigate those cards with advantages that you've acquired with the equipment you've got, the level you have, bonuses you have based on where you're fighting in, and make those cards better. So a card might say, you lose 12 warriors, which is your health in this game. You lose 12 warriors, but I can spend 2 advantages to bump that up to lose 4 warriors. And maybe if I bump it up far enough, it's something good that I get from that nasty card in a battle. And that's how battle works. Once I've completed my turn and achieved all the actions I want to take, moved around where I want to go, I have to throw a skull, a little plastic skull, into the tower. And there's this, hole in the center of the tower. The tower recognizes that you have done this. It then does something. Sometimes it's nothing, but often it's some sort of event. Sometimes a door will open in the tower, which will open up a little panel. Each side of the tower has 3 panels. It's a little scary. Open up a panel, and some of those skulls may come out because the tower is a cube tower or a skull tower, I guess.
I like this.
The skulls move through panels and stuff, and they will come out the different doors in the tower. And the more doors that are open, the more chances those skulls have to pop out. At other times, the inner workings of the tower will rotate, which may cause skulls to pop out at you. It will also cause runes to be facing you, which will illuminate and shine at you, which means that certain actions are more expensive. If I do the combat action and the combat rune is facing me, I have to throw 2 skulls into the tower instead of 1 at the end of my turn. If the skulls pop out at you, you have to place them on your buildings, and if your buildings ever are forced to get more than 3 skulls, they're destroyed, which means you don't have access to certain actions. You're trying to level up your character, gain equipment, achieve whatever goal you need to do. There's also side quests that are timed. Like if a season ends, if a month ends before you complete a side quest, things get really nasty for you. So you want to make sure you take care of those. It's good fun.
How long is the game about?
So the demo we got was, we went a full 2 hours and we were not quite finished yet.
So this is not even like a 2.0. This just sounds like a completely reworking of the game.
It is, yeah. I mean, I only played the original like one time. My cousin had it, and he let us play once. So
and then he said, "You can never touch it again, nerds."
More or less. He said, "This is mine. You're too little." But this is a solid cooperative game. It feels like an adventure. It feels like we're working together. It feels like my character got better at what he was doing through the course of the game. If they get all of the mechanical pieces, there are, like I said, a bunch of moving parts in this game. Mechanically, literally. If they can get it all to work, and they're very close in doing so, this is going to be a very fun game. So I was very pleased with seeing this edition of Return to Dark Tower, which should be coming next year from Restoration Games.
Kickstarter starting soon.
I believe so.
All right, you all know that I am not at all a solo gamer, but I played a solo game.
You are not at all a solo game.
Called LUX Aeterna, I think. I'm not sure how to pronounce the second part of the name.
Or Aeterna. Yeah, the AE is a tricky vowel.
I'm just going to call it LUX. This is a solo game, and in this game, your ship is like falling apart and also falling into a black hole. That's kind of a bad combo, honestly. So you're trying to stop that from happening. And the way you do this is you have a deck of cards, and you just need to make it through that deck without dying, and then you find what your score is. You have 6 different systems, each that have a die. These dice start at 2. And each turn, you need to draw 4 cards from this deck. You look at the cards, and each of the cards will do different things. So you pick what you're going to do with each card. One card you can put in a cache, where you can save it to another turn and use it. Another card you're going to put into an action, which is going to show like a number and a color, and it will reduce the pips of the dice of that color by that much. Once your dice get down to 0, that system will fail, and something bad will happen to you.
Okay.
And then the other one is an event or an action. I forget what the words are. I think it's event. And then you do whatever the card says. Sometimes the card will say re-roll a die. That's great. I mean, it can't be worse than a 1 or a 2, right? Or add some to a dice or whatever. And then the last card you play will tell you how far you need to move your ship towards the black hole. So it's this constant balance. You draw these 4 cards. Oh, did I mention you have a 15-minute timer to do the game in?
You didn't mention that, no.
I did not. Although, honestly, so far, this timer hasn't come into play, really. I've either won or lost, like, with a few minutes left. Like, one time I think I won, and there was still 5 minutes left. The time pressure is there, I guess, to make you stop, not just, like, completely analyze everything. But you have to sit there and say, okay, I got to watch these dice. I can't make these dice go down. If I get the dice all the way up to 7, so if it's at 6 and you make it go up another 1, then you've repaired that system and something good will happen.
Sounds like a good idea.
Well, right, but you can get so caught up in that. Like sometimes my ship, I'm moving it towards the black hole, and I have these cards that come up that say you can move your ship back from the black hole. I'm like, I'd rather get these dice up, right? And then my ship goes in the black hole and I die. So you got to keep an eye on that. And if you are going to finish off a system, like I think the most systems I've ever finished was 3 out of the 6. You have to figure out what's the best one. Oh, this one lets me draw 5 cards per turn. This one says my ship only moves 1 no matter what the card is I play there. Well, that's good stuff. Of course, the bad things can happen. From now on, your ship will move an extra 1 towards the black hole or whatever. Now your hand side's only 3. And the 6 system cards are different from game to game. I think there's like 5 different variations of each system. So that kind of adds variety, not to mention this deck that's there. There's also glitches in this deck. And when one of these comes up, it's just bad. So there's cards that help you get rid of them out of your deck, but you really don't want them to come up. I enjoy it. It's 15 minutes or less of fun, and I have lost more than I have won, but I have won a few times, and you can make it harder and say, okay, now you got to finish it in a certain amount of time frame or whatever. It's really interesting, and it also has great component quality and art, too. So that's LUX Aeterna. This is from Surprise Stare, which is Tony Boydell's company. He's a designer. And Frosted Games. The Frosted Games is the company that used to do those calendars. The Christmas Advent calendars.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, there you go. A solitary game. I'm still not a solo gamer, but I enjoyed it.
You were just dabbling.
That's right. I'm experimenting.
Next for me is another upcoming game from Le Scorpion Masqué. It's called Stay Cool. This is I guess you'd consider it a party game.
So I have a quick question for you about this.
Yeah.
When did you play this?
I played this during a break. I met with one of the reps from Scorpion Masqué.
All right, Scorpion Mask, you guys are tricky. Because I know what they went and hunted down, I think, every media person and played this game with them at the convention.
Well, they're excited about it. They are. So this is it's not really a trivia game because the questions in this game are not difficult. They are not ones that you would have any real trouble answering. But you are being asked 2 sets of questions simultaneously. If it is my turn, Tom has a set of questions that he will read to me that I need to answer verbally. Meanwhile, Crystal is reading a different set of questions to me, which I need to answer using word dice,
Eric,
word cubes.
Spell fantastic.
Exactly, with only 6 dice. Yeah. No.
That's the word that you say out loud.
Yes. Yes. So you would have to spell. I would have to spell fantastic while I am spelling. Tree using the letter dice.
But here's the good part is I can keep asking Eric my question to encourage him.
Yes, yes. All you're allowed to do is continue to repeat your question. But if I pause, which is going to happen because your brain just freezes, the questioners just continue to pester you with the questions. Yeah, it's nerve-wracking, and that's just round 1 because there's this timer, it's like a 30-second timer.
Right. Round 2's evil.
That goes, one of the questioners is flipping the timer, so it's a total of 2 minutes for a round, 30 seconds at a time. In round 2, I'm in charge of the timer, and so not only do I have to answer the questions, I also have to flip the timer, and if the timer ever runs out, I've lost. The round is over. In round 3. I have to tell someone to flip the timer, but the box is in front of the timer. So I don't get to see where the sand is on the timer. I just have to say flip the timer. It's nerve-wracking and zany and wacky, and I want to play more of it. I'm looking forward to it. It's been delayed a little bit because it was originally, Scorpion Masqué is a French company. It started in French, and it's taking longer to translate. And in fact, I think the rep said they had to eliminate some of the words that in English were dirtier than in French. And so they had to rewrite some of the questions. So that's taking a little while. Stay cool,
I asked them why there wasn't more cards in the game, and I just got this really dead stare. So I think there's a lot of good about this game. I like it. It actually doesn't bother me that much to get the 2 questions from different people. I have lots of kids. This is like every day.
That's true.
The harder problem for me was those dice have letters on them, So let's say you're spelling out the word mice and you find M-I-C, and then you're like, where is the E?
Where's the E? Yeah,
and
there's two of the dice are vowels, and the other two are consonants in a random order.
Oh, actually, so let's say I find mice, but I don't find the C. And I'm like, where's the C? Oh, it's on the M die, and I'm supposed to be using another M on a different die. Ugh. And sometimes that will slow you down. The scoring's a little wonky in that you multiply your highest level on each card by each other. And that's to stop you from just working on one card.
Right. Yeah, you can't just focus on the verbal questions and ignore the dice. I guess you could, but that's a dangerous way to play.
And you're also going to play this. I mean, some people it's going to bug. It doesn't bug me, but some people will. And some people will probably be bothered by the fact that I do not know how this game is possibly fair. There are some cards which are just easier than other cards, I think.
It does seem that way, yeah.
There's no way around that. I don't know how you can make all this stuff even. You just can't. Right. And some things that might be easy for you or not for somebody else. But as a spectator party game.
Yeah, this is not about getting a high score. This is watching your friends fumble.
Yes. Or enemies. Just walk by and like look at someone.
Hey, you want to play a game?
Yeah. Stay Cool is an interesting game. We'll see how popular it is. I like the art, and I like this series of games that Scorpion Mask is coming out. They showed me another one, too, about Logic. Did they show that one to you, Eric? Although that one's name has escaped me, but it was also good.
I saw it. They showed me the one with sliding pieces. I don't know if that's the one you're talking about.
Well, either way, the one we are talking about here is Stay Cool.
Indeed, from Le Scorpion Masqué.
All right, Eric and I played a game. I actually let Eric teach me this game, which drives me nuts, but I did it anyway because he got to it first.
I did a good job, though, right?
You did. It's also not a very difficult game to... I think it was a hard game to figure out from the rule book, but once you taught it, I was like, oh, that's pretty simple.
Yeah.
Space Bowl, you have a bunch of cards that are splayed across the table that show various formations of planets on them. How many planets are possible in the card? Like 5 or 6?
I think there's 6 different planets, yeah.
6 different planets. So each card will show some combination of these planets, from 2 to 5 of them or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Then there's a little box that has a grid in it, and one person throws marbles into that grid that represent these different planets, as well as some funky little wooden piece that is your target.
Yep.
That target's going to land in the grid, and then the marbles will land in the grid, and depending on where they land, that target, you need to find a spot on the board that has the planets around it in the same location. So if it's one to the left and one is 2 below, or whatever it is, you need to find that spot on the board if it so exists. And often more than one will exist. Sometimes none exist. And what do you say when none exists? You say...
if none exist, you say, we're all going to die.
Oh, that's right. We're all going to die. And that's it. So it's trickier than I thought at first. And it's really weird because the game has some neat components. That little wooden target's like weird, but the marbles are great. And the idea is a neat concept. The problem is it is literally the same thing all the time. And sometimes... the number of marbles you throw in is determined by a card. And if you're just throwing a few marbles in, it's pretty easy to do.
Very easy, yeah.
You throw in a lot of marbles and suddenly it gets really tricky. And I almost would rather have just played on the really tricky level. I thought that was the most fun. The easy ones were just too easy. Everybody found it. So whoop-de-doo. The first person who finds it gets is it an extra point for finding it first?
Yeah, basically. And then then the other players have like 10 seconds. Whoever finds it, either yes, I found a valid sector, or no, we're all going to die. They count to 10, and everybody else has that amount of time to either agree finding their own sector, or also agree that we're all going to die, that there's no valid solution. And if you're all correct, you're all going to earn points. But if you were the first to declare, you also get an extra point.
So I really like the concept of the game, but the simple fact is that it's a very one-note game. It looked cool, was a cool idea, and it's the kind of game that if you taught it to me, I'd say, yeah, I'll play that once, and then I would be done. So I don't know if I can necessarily recommend it. I don't think it's bad. It just doesn't feel like something I want to do over and over.
I don't think I can disagree with anything you're saying here. It's very much, if this sounds like an exciting thing for you, if you want to look for these patterns, to throw these marbles and race to find patterns, yeah, that's exactly what it does. But it doesn't do much more than that. And we got tired of this relatively quickly.
All right, well, that's Space Bowl from Sit Down Games.
Last for me is a game called Trails of Toucana. This is a flip and write game. Everybody is given a pad of paper that has a map on it, a hex grid map, with not only village spaces along the outside, but also points of interest. There's like toucans, and there's a yeti, and there's things that you would want to connect to. The object is to draw lines between the hexes, connecting villages not only to each other, but also to the points of interest on the map. Each round, each turn of the game, you're going to draw 2 cards. There might be a card that says forest and one that says desert, and all you do is draw a line between a forest hex and a desert hex. That's it. It can be anywhere. It doesn't have to branch out from anywhere specific, just one line between the 2 hexes. You continue doing that until you have gone through most of the cards, and that's round 1. You will then earn points for stuff you've connected to. If, say, you got 2 toucans connected to the different villages, that's going to earn you a certain number of points. You will also, if you are the first to connect certain villages, like the A village to the other A village, you will get a bonus of some sort. And at the end of either 2 or 3 rounds, depending on whether you're playing with the small map or the large map, you total up your points you've earned for connecting the villages and all the points you've earned throughout the rest of the game, and that's it. It's a very simple, straightforward one, but one that I've really enjoyed. Of all of the roll and writes, flip and writes I have played over the last few months, this is the one that's really stuck with me, and I've enjoyed this one more than all the others. Maybe it's just because route building is one of my, I really like that style of game, and this certainly does that. This gives me a little bit of a Transamerica vibe as you're making connections around the board, plus the racing to connect the villages before others do. Everyone is given a slightly different arrangement on their map. My A villages are going to be in different positions than your A villages, so that gives a little bit of randomization to the whole thing. It plays very quickly as well, and I'm very happy with Trails of Toucana.
Did you know that this was in Z's top 10 of the year?
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not going to argue. I haven't made my top 10 of the year yet, but that's something we're doing, next week? I should get on that.
You should. So speaking of these kind of roll and write style games, we now have that was a flip and write. Now we have a roll and write game.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a game in which you have a bunch of colored dice. I was pretty pumped about this because I like the idea of making smoothies, and this one has colored dice. But this one definitely takes a nod from That's Too Clever.
Ganz schön clever.
Right. So in this game, you use the box lid and the box bottom, and you drop dice from your hand, different colored dice, you put them next to each other and drop it in the middle so that some dice go in one box and some dice go in the other box.
This is difficult.
It was pretty funny because Eric had such a problem doing it at the beginning of the game, and then he got really good at it.
It takes practice.
And then fell apart, and then got good at it again. It was very weird. I was consistently mediocre. But it's such a weird thing, and honestly, I wish they could have figured out a better way to do it.
Maybe some sort of dual dice tower, one that splits them.
Or you could have just rolled them into one box, and then whichever side they were on.
Yeah, that's true. That would have worked too.
Yeah, I don't know, but despite that, then whoever rolls them is going to pick a group of them. I mean, one of the 2 groups, add all those numbers together, and then cross off those colors in that numbered column. Everybody else who's not in that group picks one of the numbers in the group that the person did not pick and crosses off a color in that column. And then by crossing off different things, you get bonuses. You can use these bonuses to re-roll dice or add to your dice, etc. Mm-hmm. And again, I would be very hard-pressed to not think this person played Ganshan Clever before they did it, because it's a lot of the same principles.
Yeah, okay.
Unfortunately, in Smoothies, as much as I like the theme, they do not work. And the main reason is, if you are not the active player, it's often really boring. Because sometimes you have one or I guess you always have more than one die, but you just have a couple dice to choose from in the other one, and it's usually like, all right, well, I'll just check off a green 3, or if the green 3 is already crossed off, and you have the green or the red 2, well, guess what you're doing? You're doing the red 2.
Doing the red 2, yeah.
Not a lot of options when you're not the active player. When you are the active player, you have to sit there and think about it and add the numbers and decide. And then every time you're the active player, you also cross off a whole bunch of boxes on the bottom row, because if you pick the stuff that fell in one box, the square blender, or the other box, the round blender, you're kind of like on a timer at the bottom. Mm-hmm. And this timer felt super clunky and annoying. Like, it didn't feel like it fit the rest of the game. Like, oh, I'm checking off 4 boxes on the bottom. Why?
Yeah, I mean,
because I picked this group of 4 dice.
Right. The more dice you take as the active player, the faster your game is going to be over.
Sure, but you don't necessarily have a chance. I mean, yes, you could take the 2 dice that fell in the other one, but that's almost always a much worse choice. And just to play more often as the game goes by seems really bad to me.
Right. Plus, you're giving your opponents more choices. If you give them, if I take 2 dice and give you the choice of 4 dice, that gives you a lot more options.
So at the end of the day, it seemed okay. And then the scoring, it was like, oh, it's one of these point salad type games. In Smoothies, you can score many different ways by getting a whole bunch in a row or filling up a whole column. Guess what? It's really hard. And the columns was pretty difficult to do. And Eric went for that, because why not? It seems like a thing. And at the end, the way I went for the rows completely devastated him. Not because I played better. It was just a better way to score.
Right. Well, there's 2 colors. It was like orange and yellow or something.
That you get bonus points in.
You get bonus, and that's the only color that you get bonus points for if you have the most X's on either of those 2 colors. And so Tom just focused on those 2 colors and not only got high scores for those 2 rows, but also got the bonuses for having the most X's on those 2 rows. And yeah, that was a significant jump.
And I didn't feel like I did anything clever. I just... Besides, I want my smoothies to have multiple flavors. When I go buy a smoothie, I'm like, can you add some raspberry to that? Why not? I like a mix of flavors. I don't know what that has to do with anything. So you felt the theme didn't
really connect with you.
I wasn't expecting a strong theme.
My issue with this is that, these roll and writes, part of their appeal is that it's so simple. You can easily jump into them. You can figure out the mechanisms. And for something felt much more pointy on this game, more obtuse, harder to grasp. The fact that you choose one of the 2 boxes and you have to mark down 4 dice, but you don't have to take all 4 of those dice. You could only score 3 of them or 2 of them if you want to arrange things properly. And the totaling up and adjusting those totals, it just seemed obtuse to me. It wasn't smooth. It wasn't smooth.
It wasn't. And so I'm definitely not in this camp that says every roll and write is good. We're starting to see ones that are not. And I think Smoothies is one that's not so hot. So, alrighty. Well, that's the games we're talking about today. Now let's talk about something really cool with Geoff.
Saving.
My hat, it has 1 pom-pom because I'm Santa Claus.
Hat has 1 pom-pom because
All right, let's see what we got here. Are you guys ready who are watching a video while Eric does this? Why do melons have weddings?
They can have a melon ball.
Because they can't elope. I'm so good at sleeping, I can do it with my eyes closed.
That's true. You are good at sleeping. I'm back.
So a Val saves another Val's life. The other Val says, I owe you.
Yep, that they do.
Are we back?
That they do.
This makes Eric move faster.
It does.
All righty, we're coming on right after Geoff now has talked about new voices in gaming. I think this is really cool.
Yeah, I got to see some of the tweets from the event as it was going on. Some folks were showing pictures of the various panels and seeing some of the reactions of the recipients of this award was really, really cool. And, who knows, we might see games from these people, these designers, in the next couple years, which is also really exciting. I hope this continues to grow, and I hope the committee's able to bring more and more people to this event and more events. It's really an exciting time.
Yeah, I did not, it costs money to watch the seminars at the design thing. So I wasn't able to do that. I just didn't have the time. But Elizabeth Hargrave shared her slides from her thing, and they were really cool. I really thought they were neat. So, okay. Well, guess what? It's question time.
Is that the theme song for questions?
We don't have a theme song for questions. We should.
Oh. Would you like to go first, or should I?
I'll go first. None of your business. John says, do you have any recommendation for gaming chairs that are comfortable, sturdy, and economically priced? He wants everything. He says, some people get uncomfortable in their seats by the end of the night. I think my first thing is, if you have people at your house and you're seating them, forget about buying them good, nice chairs. Your first thought should be, don't have cheap, bad chairs. No. I'm serious. I mean, I wouldn't worry about finding the best chairs. I'm more concerned about avoiding bad chairs. So for us, when I was in Korea and we started gaming back in the day, I bought really cheap fold-up chairs. And they were getting bent, and they're just not comfortable to sit on for a while. And right. I had, friends who needed, they were just too small for those people. So then I was at Costco, and I found those white chairs. They're the Lifetime chairs.
Okay, yeah.
And those things are fantastic, folks. I mean, I don't think they're the most comfortable chair to sit in, but they're not the least comfortable chair.
So we're not talking about metal construction. This is a plastic.
It's the same plastic.
Sort of a wider.
Yeah, it's the same plastic that those typical tables are made out of.
That the white plastic tables are made of.
Right, it's the same one, and I found that they're also really easy to clean. I could put a little bit of Ajax on them after they get dirty for a while, and you can make them pretty nice and clean again.
They're also light, portable.
They are, and they're also really durable. If you're going to stand in your house to change a light bulb, these are the chairs you can do it on.
Okay.
So that's the most economical thing I can think of. After that, I know some people go buy cheap computer chairs. Because they're more comfortable to sit in for a long period of time. Those, though, are a pain to set up, and where do you store them? You just have them rolling around in the thing? You could buy really expensive chairs from the gaming companies. At Essen, we were with Rathscouwers, and they had some stools, which I thought were fantastic. But you pay for those.
Sure. I mean, we used to, the failed company Geek Chic had what they called the 8-hour chair.
Well, that was ridiculously expensive.
I'm just saying, that's not really economically priced, but that was one that they billed as being so comfortable you could sit in them for 8 hours.
It had a molded butt seat thing.
It did.
I sat in it. It was very comfortable.
Sure. I'm sure it was. I never got around to buying one.
Well, no, I think they were I want to say they were several $100s per chair.
They were close to that, yeah. Anyway, Stan says, I know you have the Dice Tower t-shirts. What other merch will you have for the Dice Tower? How about a Dice Tower umbrella for a rainy day when I can't go out and play? Or other merch. You need the merch gun from the Lego Batman movie.
Well, that would be fun. We have stuff, and I mean, this is in just a couple weeks, actually, folks. We're starting our Dice Tower Kickstarter. And so we have different merchandise for that, but it's mostly gaming merchandise. Like we'll have dice and dice towers and bags and things like that.
Yeah.
Umbrellas, we would probably not sell a lot of those.
Well, I mean, we've gone through a couple iterations of like print-on-demand stores, and I think one of the early ones that we used would slap our logo on a bunch of things, and you could get mouse pads and maybe umbrellas and stuff. But we've sort of moved away from that. Some of the things that are print-on-demand would have worked, coffee mugs and stuff like that. But we haven't done that in a while.
Yeah, that's interesting. Maybe we'll do that in the future. We will see.
Next questions. Have you ever designed a game or helped design a game with your name in the credits? If so, what games are they, and where could I get a copy?
I think that's for you, Eric.
Null answer.
Okay. I designed 2 games, Vicious Fishes, which you can find at thrift stores, maybe. Nothing Personal, I co-designed with Steve Avery. However, Nothing Personal 2nd edition now exists, so you're probably better off getting the newer version of the game.
Which you do get a like original designer credit on, right?
It's an original idea from Tom Vasel.
There you go.
I'm okay with this.
Based on an idea by.
Yeah, I thought it up.
Based on a short story from the mind of.
Yeah, and so I'm just going to say, Stan then asked about what I would do if I was designing a game. I can't answer that right now. Sorry.
Okay. I'm still working on my hex-based curling game.
No one's going to play it,
I'm working very
Eric.
slowly. I know, but, that's my question. How will someone play this game? Anyway, that's it.
Oh, I didn't know I was supposed to be answering there. All right, our next question comes from Daniel. And he talks a lot. It's a very long question here, so I'm going to...
They are, yeah.
I'm going to summarize here. And basically, he's talking about the fuzzy line when we categorize games. So he talks about casual and family games, and then strategic games. So he says Stone Age or Seven Wonders Duels are considered casual family games. I'm going to say no to that, but let's say yes for now.
Oh, sure.
He says, but if I play them casually, I will lose the game. So, well...
Okay.
Yes, I think you're mixing words here. He says he's not looking for a clear and distinctive marker between these games, because there probably isn't one. Yes, that's true. But I'm interested in your thoughts. Where do you draw the line between these two? How do you decide if you classify a game as family casual weight for a strategy game? Gut. It's always gut.
It's gut.
For all these categories, it's always gut instinct. Well, I mean, there's no list of qualifications.
So I would say that if the focus doesn't have to be the game, if you can carry on conversation while you're playing, if you can stand up and greet people as they come into the room, if you could be eating while you play the game and not detrimentally affect the game, that's a casual family weight game. If your focus is essentially on what's on the table and you're not really worried about anything else, and not really inclined to worry about anything else that other than what's on the table, that is a dividing line into the more serious strategy game for me.
But the when I don't know, I mean, you say that I don't get the whole part about playing casually. You mean playing haphazardly. You can play casually and still be very strategic. A good example of that is card games. I know people who play bridge and hearts and all that stuff. They're casually playing. They're just goofing off, but they're not making mistakes.
He's talking about, playing with one arm draped over the back of the chair.
Yes, I get that idea. All right. Well,
and unbutton the top button.
The next question, very similar. How do we draw the line between abstract and paste it on theme? Same thing. Gut. I mean, really, we'll sit there and argue to death over whether Azul's abstract, I think, pretty clearly. But let's say Through the Desert, which has camels in it. But is that abstract? Well, probably. But what about, the latest game from Stefan Feld, which has this humongous interesting, cool theme that doesn't have anything to do with gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just look at it. To me, an abstract strategy game is usually a 2-player game, maybe not, that you're playing against somebody else, and the focus is on moving pieces to get 5 in a row, or capture opponent's pieces, or to do some goal, and that is the whole focus of the game, and theme doesn't matter. But, again, go watch our top 10 abstract strategy games online, and you'll see how much we argue about this.
Sure. I mean, I tend to have a much drier definition of straight-up abstract. Like, it needs to be about the pieces. These pieces don't represent anything. They're just pieces. Whereas, I'm willing to accept even a light theme as being a thematic game. I guess Through the Desert is an abstract game.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, I don't know that I care that much
I don't
what
either.
A game category is in.
And every game is an abstract game because it's not actually doing the thing that you're doing.
Well,
so everything has to be abstracted in some way.
What if we play a game of werewolf where I actually call you?
Then that's no longer, that's not a game anymore. That's assault.
It wouldn't be a terrible clawing, Eric. It'd be a
mauling.
Gentle mauling. All right. So his last question here. This one's a little easier. He's talking about games with large and small footprints, and he's talking about worker placement. Usually seems like it takes a larger footprint. So are there good worker placement games with smaller footprints? He thinks of Targi, which is one, but are there any others? And for me, the easiest one would be Mintworks.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a really tiny worker placement game. Really tiny worker placement game.
Mm-hmm.
And it works well. Now, most worker placement games are better, big, probably. But that's the one I'm thinking of, and I said it before Eric, so he has to think of something else.
No, you definitely did, and you got there first. I was racking my brain on that one. I couldn't think. Most everything, because he mentioned Stone Age as being, like, big footprint. Because I was like, oh, Stone Age is pretty simple. But no, there's a lot. I think part of its nature of a worker placement game is that you place a worker at this location and you get sort of this mini mechanism of how this works in that zone. And then if you go over here, you get this little mini mechanism of how that resolves. And so by necessity, you need to have a certain amount of components and stuff to work with those mini mechanisms, all the different resources and bonus tiles and stuff that you get for placing those workers. And yeah, I'm not sure, other than Mintworks, which has a very simple, small footprint and just the one type of worker, I'm not sure what else would fit the bill there. I think you win that round.
Okay, but now we're going to actually play a game with our next one.
Wait, what?
Read it.
Okay. Off the top of your head, this is from Sam. Without looking, what is the current number 1, number 10, number 100, and number 1,000 ranked board games on BoardGameGeek? Okay,
so I saw this question. I did not go look it up at all because I was curious about this. But we both know number 1, right?
Gloomhaven, right?
That's correct. So let's both guess a game for each of these, and we'll see who's closer.
Okay.
I'll let you go first because I look at rankings more than you do.
Sure.
Although I don't know the 100 or 1,000. I'm just going to make wild guesses.
I will say Through the Ages for number 10.
All right, I'm going to say Puerto Rico. We're going to see. You get points equal to how close you are. Lower score wins. All right, 100.
Castles of Burgundy.
Eric, I think that might be in the top 10. I'm going to say Ticket to Ride. All right, 1,000. Got to go dig deep now. Nothing personal, Eric. Nothing.
That's. Let's say. Oh man, what's a good? Because we were looking at ranking somewhat recently for our underrated list. I will say.
Yeah, but we looked at rankings 2,000 and above.
We did, which is why this is giving me such trouble. How about Merchant of Venus?
Oh, that's a good one. Oh, I think. Okay, hang on. I gotta get closer to Merchant of Venus. Let's see here. Something close to 1,000. I'll do nothing personal. Let's see how it happens.
Let's just see how that works out.
Alrighty, so I'm going to pull up BoardGameGeek now. Eric, I wrote them down there so you can read them off to me, right?
Yes. So Through the Ages and Puerto Rico are our number 10 guesses.
All right, well, if you get it exactly, I think you... Number 10 is, at this moment when we record this podcast, is Scythe.
Ah, okay.
Through the Ages is number 4, so you are 6 away. Where's Puerto Rico? Hang on. That's slightly evil there, Eric.
Yep.
Has Puerto Rico fallen that much? Puerto Rico's 22.
Okay.
I'm 12 off, so Eric wins round 1.
Round 2.
All right. So,
Castles of Burgundy and Ticket to Ride.
So 100 is Legendary Encounters, an alien deck building game.
Okay.
And you said Castles of Burgundy?
Mm-hmm.
I said it was top 10, but I was wrong. It's actually 15.
That's still pretty far away.
It is. It's 85 away. I don't know if Ticket to Ride's even in the top 100, but I think it's in at least the top 200, right? It needs to be lower than 185, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not seeing it. I'm down to 135, down to 150. Oh, 156.
Okay.
Woohoo! Round 2.
That was closer than I thought it would be.
This is a more fun game than I thought. All right.
All right, for the number 1,000, Merchant of Venus and Nothing Personal.
Ooh, we may have a small technical problem here.
I meant the original.
Wait a minute, are you sure?
Yeah, first edition Merchant of Venus.
Because they have 2 very different rankings, Eric.
They do, I know they do.
I'll let you change it.
Nope, original.
Well, first let's look at what 1,000 is. 1,000, wow. 1,000 is Century, A New World. This is the 3rd edition to Century. It won't be there long.
The new one. Yeah.
So let's look at what's right around it. Gravwell.
Yep, okay.
All right, so you said Merchant of Venus. All right, and the original one is 849.
Not bad.
That's true. It's 151 away. Actually, the 2nd edition is ranked higher at 691.
Really? But for this purpose, this was the better guess. So there.
But, Nothing Personal is ranked 963.
Wow.
Yes! I'm
I think you
lower
won
than
this.
Eric's game. Wait. Something's wrong.
You won this game, but my game won that game.
This is intriguing. I could turn this into a game show, Eric.
Yeah.
Like, in any kind of thing, you got to try to see, you got to pick something that's close to it.
Yeah.
Huh. Let's go to the next question. Uriah, which, man, I'd never met someone who has that name. The only Uriah I know is Uriah Heep from David Copperfield. He was evil. Anyway, he says, have you ever used Lego pieces or figures to add bling to a game? And he let me finish the question. He says, I was in a Lego store recently and saw the Powerpuff Girls sets were on clearance and thought of Eric. Yeah, but here, Eric, come on. Have you ever been to a Lego store and seen what's on clearance? It's like 1% off.
Oh.
It's not really, but it's every time I see stuff on clearance at a Lego store, I'm like, maybe? And then I go look at the prices and go, that's why I don't buy Legos very often.
It's still super expensive. Yeah. Interesting. I've never used Legos. You know what? No, I did. I may have added a Lego shark, although I think there's a Lego shark already in Get Bit.
See, I can't remember now either if the Lego shark started in the game or if we added. I know I added it to the first one. I think I've added the little Lego mugs to something before in the past.
Like the dragon and flagon?
I don't remember. Maybe it was the dragon and flagon.
I did see when I got to hang out with Dave Luza, and he has a Lego strike arena that he made. like a homemade version of Strike with a Lego arena that they fling dice into. It was fun. But that's the extent of my Lego blinging.
Yeah, I don't do a lot with Legos. Maybe I should.
Ian says our group has a pick system where you acquire points for coming to game night, and then you spend those points based on the length of the game you picked. So the pick order is determined by who has more points in the bank.
Well, Eric, I found a worse method than your group uses.
This is intriguing. So what I'm interested to hear from you guys about is if you knew a heavier game like Gaia Project, Dominant Species, or Food Chain Magnet is going to be picked first, would you try and pick something lighter second or third? Or would you still pick the game you want to play? The Hotness, a just arrived Kickstarter, etc.
All right, well, let me take my mind out of the freedom that I have in my own game group and go to this forced servitude of this setup.
Uh-huh.
What does it matter what game? I mean, you spend your points or you don't. Am I like saving them to get a really cool game in?
Well, it's sort of like, at this point, it's sort of like Glen Moore, where if you go for the cheap item, then you'll get your pick back more quickly.
Sure, but that's only if I want to play those cheap items. In those games, which is fantastic, you are adding those small points together. Here, if I played, let's say, No Thanks, for example, 20 times because I have lots of points, is that what I really want it to do?
Maybe you just want it to be your pick more often.
I know, right? If I have some sort of, well, I get to pick again. Everyone's like, oh, here we go.
I rule this group.
We're playing Flux. Oh, that game ended in 2 minutes. It's like I didn't pick at all.
I only spent a point and a half. I mean, so the grander issue, forgetting this pick system, sometimes if a very long game has hit the table, like, the first pick, and somebody's like, I'm putting down this new Kickstarter, we're figuring it out, it's got giant minis, and we're going to, just work our way through this, it's going to last all night. I will often think about picking a shorter game, knowing that I will then get to play multiple games that night, as opposed to the larger behemoth that is hitting the table at the other table.
I do the same thing, but that's because I would like to see how many short games I can get played.
Right, it becomes a game.
So I can be like, what? You guys are still playing that? We're on our 4th game over here.
It's true.
All right, Sam said, I mentioned in my Tainted Grail game, my review, that if I was giving a short description of the game, it would be like if I combined Gloomhaven with Seventh Continent. Do you think it's necessary to have Gloomhaven in Seventh Continent if, in this case, you already have Tainted Grail?
Interesting.
And he said something very similar about Between Two Castles, Mad King Ludwig. People made the case that the game essentially undid the need to ever have both Between Two Cities and the Castle of Mad King Ludwig, since Between Two Castles scratches the itch of both games. Anyone who says that, I would have a hard time believing they played it.
But it uses the same words in the title.
Yeah, no. Between Two Castles of Mad King Ludwig is between two cities with the scoring taken from Castle of Mad King Ludwig, and that's it. I would never pick that over Castle of Mad King Ludwig. They don't have anything other. Castle of Mad King Ludwig is awesome. It's like a build a castle. Anyway, they're just not the same. And that's the thing. Even though I describe Tainted Grail as Gloomhaven mixed with Seventh Continent, it's not the same as each of those games. They're all very different games. So I don't think if you're looking for a rationale, go for it. Sure. I'm not ever trying to tell people to get all of the games.
Right. Yeah, but, I mean, if that works for you. And Sam was asking for other games that have done this. And the one that came to mind was Quirky Circuits, the new Plaid Hat game, is sort of a combination of the Mind and Robo Rally. But I don't think it replaces either of those things. Yeah. That's just a quick way to describe how the game works. And I think the fusion is what makes it interesting. It doesn't necessarily replace those core mechanics from other games.
I don't think I've ever played a game, maybe I have, and I have to think back for a long time, a game that replaced two. There's a lot of times I'll play a game and go, oh, this is like this other game, but I like this one better, so I'm going to play this instead of that game. That happens a lot. So, for example, I could see myself doing that with Between Two Castles and Mad King Ludwig and saying, I'd rather play that than Between Two Cities.
I could see that, yeah. It's harder to combine, and because there has to be something pure about those root games that isn't necessarily served by the distilled combination of the two of them.
Yeah, I could find probably some mega game that combines 20 different games.
Like, well, Copycat. I know you don't really like that game, but it takes stuff from Through the Ages and Agricola and Dominion, but it doesn't replace any of those games. It just distills pieces of it into a new thing.
Yes. I don't know. I'm not too worried about this. I know you want to have that condensed collection, and that's fine. I just am wary. I will use that as describers, but I would be very wary to say one game replaces two. Again, it's possible. I have to think really long and hard about it. Hey, this might be a good topic for our forums, folks. If you can think of this, like what game replaces two other games? And it's like, wow, I don't want to play either of these games based on this. If you can think, and I'm not talking about two games that are similar. Like you're like, this game's better than Azul and the second version of Azul. Well, no kidding. I get that. I'm talking about it combines two different games, and now it makes you want to play neither of those games.
I mean, if that ration works for you, that's great. I'm happy for you. That's you've saved one game's worth of shelf space.
True. Alrighty. Well, that's our questions, folks. It's time now to go to the hardest letter so far.
Saving. Ha! And Tom gave no dumb dad jokes.
That's because I was busy fixing this top 10. Also, apparently I wrote, Tom picked games ranked K or less, excluding games that are not K games. I was like, why would I have written that stupidity that I realized you did? So
yeah. Well, you just didn't remove your description of the previous list. And I just decided to update it for the current list.
Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Well, here's the thing, folks. I actually thought K would be a harder letter than J, and it's not.
No, there were some options here.
Partially because of the word key.
That is true. Yes.
But I mean, more so than that, it's just there's a lot of good games start with K. There's actually a lot of good games. I think the only hard letter that Eric will come into problems with might be Q, X, and Z. I think other than that, It's really not that hard. But we will be talking about some games that we don't often talk about. And that is one of the reasons we're doing this.
That is why we do this. It sort of brings things out of the shadows a little bit.
So, and man, these games are all over the place. So this is very intriguing. I actually dropped a few games off my list that I like quite a bit. So
okay.
We'll start with, and let me see. I'm looking at the list. There are two games I haven't played at all. And the first one, Eric's going to start with.
Let's begin with Kanban. This is a game about building cars. In fact, Kanban refers to an efficiency method in Japanese manufacturing. It's a whole business thing, and I've narrated courses about it. I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about this, which is about manufacturing cars, where you get the parts and you upgrade the materials that make the cars and send them through the assembly line. Then you have to test them, run them around the track, and do it as efficiently as possible. It is a brain burner. It's a heavy game, but one I enjoy. Number 10, Kanban.
Yeah, I just haven't got this one to the table. It is pretty heavy, and I think at this point I'm just going to not worry about it.
There's a new version coming. It's Kanban EV, which is a new addition.
Well, maybe. My number 10 is Chaos Ball, spelled with a K, obviously. This is one of the games that put Eric Lang on the map for me and put Come on the map for me. It is essentially a very shortened Blood Bowl style type game where you're running in and grabbing this football of sorts. I'm not sure why it's there, because you're also beating the snot out of each other. Great miniatures, tons of factions, lots of fun. It's a silly game, over the top, uses some of that combat where you both put a card down and flip it over and see who wins. Just very enjoyable game, but I haven't played it for a while, which is why it's number 10, Chaos Ball.
Number 9 is part of the Cosmos 2-player line. It's called Kahuna. It's a whole bunch of islands, and you take turns in the game making connections between these islands, playing cards to make connections, remove bridges of your opponents. But it has this concept of cascading, that once you have the majority of the bridges on a particular island, you claim it and wipe out all of your opponent's bridges, which can cause some crazy cascades of like huge shifts in board position, which is very entertaining or frustrating depending on who's at the end of that. The first time I played this, this is one of the few games I got visibly frustrated on because I just didn't get the concept yet, and my opponent was destroying me, and I didn't take it well, and I'm not proud of that. But I've gotten better, which is why Kahuna is my number 9.
Kahuna was my number 11, I think. And there's also another K game that's very similar, Kanaloa.
Yes,
which is the
4-player
version, although I don't believe that version is hard to find. You can find Kahuna pretty easily. Kanaloa is much trickier. But yes, it's a really cool back and forth game. My number 9 is higher in Eric's list, and that's because the people who own this company play music really, really loud and made me forget about it.
My number 8 is the first key game on our respective lists. This is Keeper. It's a Richard Breese design, part of the Key series. The big deal with this game is this folding mat, sort of action grid that you will flip and arrange. It's this crazy interlocking piece of cardboard that you flip around and put in an arrangement that will be your set of actions for the round, and other players can play on your board, but of course that means that you're going to get those meeples if they play on your board. You can follow other people's actions. If I choose this thing, you go around the table and see if somebody wants to join you. It's neat. Plus, I just really like flipping that board around. Keeper, number 8.
Yeah, this one I like, not as much as Eric. I think that flipping board thing is a little more gimmicky than it is cool. I mean, I know it's a gimmick, but what I mean is there's only I think, is it 4 positions or 6 positions the board can be in?
Something like that.
So it's not like you're flipping and flipping and flipping and finding the right thing. You're not. Right. You're just finding the right one. Right. My number 8's higher on Eric's list, and that is weird because I didn't know he played this game.
Number 7 is Kashgar.
I should have maybe put this on my list.
This is sort of a deck building game, but with a bit of a twist, because you don't have the cards in a deck or your hand. They get placed in one of 3 columns. And when you activate them, you activate the card that's in front, and then that card moves to the back. And before you can activate that card again, you have to activate all the cards in front of it. So you sort of set up some columns that are very short that you can cycle through quickly, and then others that are longer with more powerful, less used cards. And arranging those is the key to playing Kashgar, number 7.
It's a really good game. This one should have got more love, I think. My number 7 came out this year. I believe it's the only game on my list that's from 2019, and that's The King's Dilemma. This is a big, I think I've talked about this on the podcast before, a legacy-style game where you are a faction in this kingdom and trying to influence the things that happen. You're faced with tough moral decisions where you will make moral, maybe immoral decisions, and it will actually affect the kingdom as you go through these big storylines. I really like the story in this one a lot. Super fun. The King's Dilemma.
That's good. I think the last time you had checked in here on the podcast with The King's Dilemma, you were still maybe a third or halfway through.
I've gone through the whole thing. It is fun.
Yeah, well, I'm glad it's still high on your list. My number 6 is Creta. It's the island of Crete, and it's divided into a bunch of little sections that are all going to score throughout the course of the game, but in a somewhat random order. And you don't know, or you only know the next 2. zones that are going to score. It's an area control game. You're placing pieces, moving them around the board, placing structures all over the place, and basically battling for supremacy in these different sections. But do you fight for the one that's about to score or set up for the one that's coming after? Can you do both? Some structures and pieces will influence multiple areas around the board. It's a neat system that forces you to plan ahead as best you can and outmaneuver your opponents. Krita, number 6.
This is the other one that I've not played, but we'll see. My number 6 is King's Guild. This came out last year too. Not a ton of fanfare, and it's kind of faded away, but I still really like this game. It has a very Splendor feel in this game. You are either taking resources or spending these resources to make equipment for adventurers going out on missions, who will then buy them and give you points. You can build upgrades to your little town as the different people come by and buy stuff from you. It's a really solid, fast game that I enjoy a lot. That's the King's Guild.
Number 5 is Crossmaster Arena. The game that my kids really enjoy this one, so it hits the table more often. I do appreciate the tutorial system for Crossmaster. It's got these lovely little figurines. I do think it suffered a little bit from glut. Just they kept releasing set after set after set after set after set, and it just became impossible to keep up with Crossmaster. But still, just with a base set, maybe an expansion or two, there's plenty to play with here. And those little characters are a lot of fun. Crossmaster Arena, number 5.
Yeah, this is one of those games that I think we're going to talk about in 10 years, and people are going to be like, what? That's cool. And you'll be like, yeah, back in the day.
It's hard to find.
My number 5 is the Big Kahuna. No pun intended.
It's Kahuna?
No, of the past couple years, and that's Keyforge. Still sold everywhere. Still very, very popular. Still really cool. And I'm going to let slip a little secret here. Keyforge is pretty awesome. It's a third thing. I like it. You get a unique deck. Every deck in the world of Keyforge is unique. You play against each other. It's a great two-player game. That's why I like it. But we have a Kickstarter coming up. And I haven't decided how we're putting these in our Kickstarter yet. But we have 10 Keyforge decks that have the words Dice Tower in them. With the Dice Tower logo on them, actually. So that's really cool. It's really cool. So yeah.
But they're different decks though.
Every deck in the world of Keyforge is different.
Is unique. I see.
Yeah, it's neat. It was on my list before I made this list earlier, and these came in like today or yesterday. But
very cool.
I still like the idea of having a deck no one else does. I don't know what it is. I like that very unique. It's me. And that's why I like Keyforge.
It is pretty cool. I haven't played this a lot. I've played maybe once or twice with my kids, and it didn't really click for them. So this just missed being on my top 10. My number 4 is Kingdom Builder, the Donald X. Vaccarino game about positioning your buildings properly on the board in order to satisfy varying scoring conditions. You draw 4 of them at the beginning of each game, and you sort of play toward that. I like adjusting my strategy and approach for the different scoring cards that are going to come up at the beginning of the game. It feels a little bit like Dominion, where you will adjust your strategy based on the arrangement of cards that you have at the beginning. And I like making that work. Kingdom Builder, number 4.
This almost made my list, but it didn't. And I'm lying. My number 4 is a game that I seriously got to get Eric to play.
I've played it.
Oh, you don't like it?
Not really.
Oh, Kamisato, one of the greatest abstract strategy games ever made, where all your pieces move like a queen, but they can only move forward. And whatever color you stop on, that's the color piece your opponent must move. It's amazing, folks. It's that simple, and it's that good, and you should play it, despite Eric's apathy.
Yeah. I've played it online, and it was okay. It didn't really grab me, that's all.
All righty. Well, that's fine. That's Kamisato.
Number 3 was Tom's number 8, and that is Cathedral. This can be a really nasty game. You have 5 workers. This is a worker placement game, and you are placing them out to farm different areas, and you can build fences to make sure that your opponents can't farm the area that you want to farm. It's really a cool game, and eventually you're collecting resources to build the cathedral, which will earn you points. It's a great one. Very solid game in the Key series.
Yeah, this is one of the ones I keep every time I see Richard Breese. I'm like, when's it going to be reprinted? Because I really like this one. Also, it's one of the few games to have octagonal pieces.
Yes.
My number 3 is Kingsburg. Now, I want to be really clear here, folks. I'm talking about Kingsburg, which, while it is a dice game, is not Kingsburg the dice game, which just came out a couple months ago.
Right.
I'm talking about Kingsburg the board game, which is a game in which you roll dice, place those dice, get resources, use those resources. I love this game. Kingsburg the dice game is a pile of trash. Did you play that one, Eric, with us?
I have not played Kingsburg the dice game.
No, because we played at Essen that one night. You might have already hit the hay at that point.
It's possible, yeah.
Yeah, so whatever. And it's weird because it's called Kingsburg the dice game, and Kingsburg is a dice game, so it's weird. But Kingsburg, really like this game. I like using your dice and adding them together and then placing them on spots on the board. It's been out for well over a decade at this point, and yet I still have a lot of fun playing it. Like it a lot. My number 3, Kingsburg.
Number 2 was Tom's number 9. The game is Clask. And yes, he's right. The folks running the booth at Essen were very loud.
It was hilarious. Every night when the show ended, instantly they started karaoke.
It was karaoke, yeah, immediately.
And they were not ashamed at all.
Nope, not at all. They seem like a fun bunch, for sure.
Really
and
are.
Clask is a great game, a real-time physical game where you're moving the pieces around using magnets from the bottom of the table and trying to score goals. It's sort of like soccer, but then there's also magnetic little mini pieces, markers in the center, that if you get too close to them, they will fly across the table and attach to your piece. And if you collect 2 of those, you lose a point. There's what, like 3 or 4 ways to lose a point in this game. Somebody scores on you, you collect those markers, you fall down. Like if you fling your piece too far and too fast, you fly across and you can no longer get your piece back. That will also be a point. And you fall in your own hole. Yes, if you move your piece into your goal, you will also lose. Anyway, my kids love this one. I have not yet played the 4-player version of Clask, which I really want to do.
Oh, yes. That's in the Dice Tower library.
Need to do that. But anyway, it's solid and really solid game, and one that can be pulled out in lots of different situations. Clask.
All right, my number 2 is Eric's number 1. So, well, there you go. I guess he's the king.
I wonder what it could be. Well, actually, there's 2 options. It's King of Tokyo and New York is the way I wrote it down. I think.
Can I argue
King of
with you
Tokyo,
slightly here, though? I bet you haven't played King in New York in a couple years.
You're absolutely right. I think my brain says King of New York is more interesting because there's more going on, but my heart says King of Tokyo because it's the one that is easiest to explain, to pull out. It's hit the table a lot more than New York has. So really, King of Tokyo is the solid number 1.
Yeah, King of Tokyo is such a fantastic game. King of New York is fine, but man, I like King of New York, but it's just King of Tokyo is so much easier to play. They keep coming out with new monsters and new ways to play it. I like it.
Did you get a look at King of Tokyo Black? They had it on
display.
It's essentially,
at the Yellow Booth. There's a few. I gotta be careful what I can and cannot talk about here.
Yeah, they're not really releasing. I've been told that it's new.
It will all be revealed by January. They're just darker versions in a sense of all the original characters of King of Tokyo, and there's a few minor mechanism changes which they will introduce as time goes by.
Okay. I'm still excited.
Oh, no, I'm excited, too. It looks really cool. So, my number 1, this was an easy pick for me because it's like my number 1, then number 2, and that's Kemet. Kemet, the amazing game of area control and monsters and special powers. It's a 4X game, not really, but it feels like one in a short period of time. It's a game that put Matago on the map for me. It's a game that every time I play it, I think of how fantastic it is. I love this game. Still one of my favorites. Kemet.
Okay. I'll try it sometime.
Yeah, maybe. You won't.
Probably not.
As we get older, this is one thing we talk about. As we get older, every time we're like, we should play this game. It's probably never going to happen since they come out with 2,000 new games every year.
Right. Yeah, that's probably where you are with
like,
Krita and
I'm going to get to these games. When you're in the retirement home, we still won't have time.
I still, people joke about it, but I think there will be a board game retirement home in the next 10 years.
Some folks
are working on it.
That's that. I'll do it when I'm in the Dice Tower. I'll get my kids to run it. I better get it for free, though. I'm not kidding, kids, if you're watching this. Free. Alrighty, well, that's the end of another episode. Oh, no, People's Choice.
People's Choice.
I can't believe I didn't put the People's Choice. Okay, People's sit number 10, Clask. By the way, Clask does a great job at marketing, too. They would give people a discount if they wrote Clask on their head in marker and walked around Essen. And
yes,
people did it. Number 9, Kingdom Builder. Number 8, King of New York. Go figure. Number 7, Keyforge. Number 6, Kingsburg. Number 5, Karuba. Neither one of us picked this one.
No.
I like Karuba. It's fine.
Yeah, I've only played it, I think, once.
Number 4, Keyflower, the most popular of all the key games. Number 3, Kemet. Number 2, King Domino.
Yes.
This one's a little too light for me, but I get why people like it.
Yeah, I've retreated from King Domino. I think it's a good fit for my kids, but it's not one that I'm asking to play very much.
And then number 1, King of Tokyo. Now listen, folks, this is the People's Choice. You can always vote on these. Like right now, you could stop and you can go to our website and vote on the best of 2019, right? And we'll go through those. But also on our website right now is the top 100 games of all time. That's a video series we're going to be doing in January. And if you want your voice to be heard in that, go vote on that. It's really fun. And we're going to be putting that together. We got some cool ideas about that.
All right.
And that's that. We appreciate everybody. We'll be back in a week with the end of the year stuff.
Yeah.
So it's another end of the year. Christmas is going on. Is this the last episode before Christmas? Nope. That's our next episode.
That would be the next episode.
So don't have a Merry Christmas yet.
Not yet.
Unless you're listening to this late, in which case,
well, then maybe.
Have a very Merry Christmas. Anyway, folks, I'll see you all next time. Until then, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Eric Summerer.
And you've been listening to The Dice Tower.
In honor of Kay, we should have done the theme song in kazoos.
Wait, what's the other thing? I don't use a kazoo anymore. I use the vuvuzela or whatever it's called.
The vuvuzela?
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're not hitting V for a long time.
When it happens, I'm bringing it out.
How about Kalamazoo? We could play a kazoo in Kalamazoo.
That's crazy.
Ta-da.
That's it, folks who are watching on the video. We'll see you all next time. Bye-bye-bye. Bye-bye-bye.